Good afternoon, everyone. Calling to order the House Committee on Consumer Protection and Commerce. It is 2 p.m. Tuesday, March 14th, 2023. We are in conference room 329. We have a number of items on the agenda today, so we'll be limiting testimony to 2 minutes. For those who are on Zoom, please keep yourselves muted and your video turned off until it is your turn to testify. If you are having troubles, please go ahead and use the chat function to contact our IT staff, and we'll help you figure out the technical issues. We'll get back to you if time remains. First on the agenda, we have... Sorry, can you please keep yourself muted? Thank you. First on the agenda, we have SB 1468 SD2 relating to right of entry for professional surveyors. First to testify on this measure, we have Sheena Choi, Executive Director of the Board of Professional Engineers, Architects, Surveyors, and Landscape Architects with comments on Zoom.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Sheena Choi, Executive Officer of the Board of Professional Engineers, Architects, Surveyors, and Landscape Architects. The board would like to stand on its written testimony and is available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Lindsay Garcia, Hawaii Realtors, with comments.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Lindsay Garcia from the Hawaii Association of Realtors. So we stand on our comments. Just wanted to say that the amendments that we're recommending, which is 10 days notice, as well as asking that no entry into any building, structure, residence, or vehicle on the property, does bring this measure in alignment with the House version, HB 1241 HD2, which we do support. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Joanne Williamson. I'm a member of the board of the Hawaii Land Surveyors Association and the National Society of Professional Surveyors, Hawaii representative. I do stand by my written testimony. Did you receive a copy?
Sorry, you are part of the Hawaii Land Surveyors Association?
Yes.
Yes, we do have your testimony.
Okay, thank you. I stand by my written testimony. We would like to make clear that the HLSA board and its membership does not believe that a statutory right to enter should require consent and should only be subject to reasonable notice and identification, as 26 other states have. I also submitted the legislative report, but we do stand by this version of the bill, the second draft, and there are some verbiage recommendations that are included with that testimony. Thank you. I'll make myself available for questions.
Thank you. Any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, we have written testimony in support from the City Department of Design and Construction, Hawaii Land Surveyors Association just testified, Quiet River Land Services, and several individuals all in support. Members, are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll be moving on to SB 875 SD1 relating to the counties. First to testify on this measure, we have Chun James from countrytalkstory.com in opposition on Zoom.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, thank you. Hey, I know you all are very busy and pressed for time, and you probably have not even studied this issue, but this is one of the best kept secrets. This bill allows the counties to become the police, prosecutor, jury, judge, and executor, and cut out the protection of being able to go to court. You can ignore us, but you cannot ignore the Constitution. The late Justice Ginsburg has specifically already said in a recent Supreme Court rendering, this court has held that the 14th Amendment due process clause incorporates the protection contained in the Bill of Rights, rendering them applicable to the states. And for good reason, the protection against excessive fines has been a constant shield to not undermine other constitutional liberties. And also, protection against the fine has been used and all the time. And so again, it's a historical fines clause. I'm sorry, I'm skipping here a little bit. In short, let me just say, in short, the historical and logical case for concluding that the 14th Amendment incorporates the excessive fines clause is overwhelming. Protection against excessive punitive economic sanction is secured by the clause. So, to repeat, it is fundamental to the scheme of our ordered liberty. And again, these bills assume that DPP is always correct and the people always wrong. And one more thing, the counties already have the tools, but it is saying in the written testimony that they want to have non-judicial because the existing tools that they have take too long, are too costly, and are too slow.
My apologies, Ms. James. Your time limit has run out. Please summarize your testimony.
Yes, please kill this bill. Just because there's some egregious owners does not mean that the government must tear down the criteria of civil rights to fry some bad eggs. We live in a democracy with a constitution. We're not living in China.
Thank you.
Mahalo.
Next, we have Edward Jones from the Oahu Short-Term Rental Alliance in opposition on Zoom.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and members. OSTRA stands on its written testimony strongly opposed to SB 875. Non-judicial foreclosure will be abused by the DPP by taking property for minor offenses. They've already set up this scheme, and they're actively engaged in putting liens on individuals' property for minor offenses as we speak. This is just the next punitive step that they would like to take. Instead of complaining to the legislature, the DPP should be securing outside counsel for litigation, and it should be securing funds for that to enforce liens on and they should be doing this during this budget cycle. No additional authority is really needed to do this from the state. They already have this authority. It costs money anyway to litigate property rights abuses. Hilster v. City is just the latest lawsuit. They have to be paying for that as they're abusing folks' property rights. So I would prefer that they just do their job and respect people's rights instead. If the DPP conducted enforcement without violating citizens' constitutional rights, the need for judicial lien enforcement would be rare. For those occasions, the director should bring a resolution before the full council. Then the public would have a right to an opportunity to testify. This process actually has already been modeled very well. They should continue to do that. Mahalo for giving me an opportunity to testify. I'm available for questions.
Thank you. I assume you're testifying on behalf of OSTRA as well? Oh, I'm sorry, you're listed twice on this. Never mind. Moving on, we'll be going to Joe Kent from the Grassroots Institute of Hawaii with comments. Are they here? No. Okay. Next, we have Barbara J.H. Mikado, individual in opposition on Zoom. Okay. Moving on, we have Lisa Halls, individual in opposition on Zoom. Lisa Halls? Okay, maybe there's some technical difficulties. We'll be coming back if we have time. Moving on, we have Patty Tews, individual in opposition on Zoom. Patty Tews. Please go ahead. Okay. We'll be moving on. David Hall, individual in opposition on Zoom.
Aloha. Can you folks hear me okay?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes. No, I am a homeowner and a business owner here in Hawaii. And if
hold on, please. David, Patty, or Lisa, can you please mute yourself, turn off your Video will come back to you right after this. David, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
David, please go ahead.
Oh, okay. As I was saying, I'm a homeowner and a business owner here in Hawaii, and I am against this bill. You know, as a resident, I am and a tax-paying citizen of this state and county. This bill, it'll give the state the right and the power to take away my property, my livelihood, to be able to survive and live in this state. And the business that I own, it contributes towards the main product of Hawaii, which is tourism. And you know, my point is basically where does it end? You start from here, and then you're going to force, you know, any type of mom and pop business out. Anyone that owns any type of property, you know, my point is that this violates our rights as not only citizens, but as tax-paying citizens and owners here in Hawaii. Appreciate you giving me the time.
Thank you. Next, we'll be going back to Patty Tews. Is Patty there?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm very upset. This bill has got to be stopped. I am in the process of, within the next 6 months to a year, of buying property on Big Island. And now, hearing this bill yesterday has really made me upset. Foreclosures anywhere in the United States gives the homeowner time to plead their case and to raise money to keep their house. This is a very unfair, unlawful, illegal, and what this bill allows is for the state to steal the homeowner's house without the owners being able to defend themselves. The removal of judicial process of foreclosure denies the homeowner their rights to defend their ownership of their home. This bill is unlawful and illegal, as I have said, and deprives the homeowner of their property rights. I'm still going to buy. The non-judicial foreclosure process proposed in SB 875 would remove the basic legal protection of due process from lawful property owners. Also, I have one more thing. I hope I can find it. Okay, just a moment. Okay. The right to own property is one of the most fundamental rights that individuals possess, and it is protected by both Hawaii state and federal law. The Hawaii Constitution specifically recognizes that the right to acquire, possess, and protect property is a natural right, and that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, and property without due process of law. SB 8.
Hello? Patty, are you still there? Okay. We'll be going back to Lisa Halls then. Is Lisa there? Please go ahead. Or not. Okay. We'll come back to you if we have time. Next we have Kaeo Keeling, individual in opposition, on Zoom.
Aloha, everybody. Mahalo for letting me join your meeting today. Yes, I am in opposition of SB 875. Basically, you are, just as everybody else is saying, this bill would take away my rights as a homeowner, as a tax-paying citizen in the state of Hawaii. It's, as far as I'm concerned, you're trying to legalize extortion. This is basically what it is. And with this bill, you will definitely have a lot of opposition, thousands included. So with the legal right of due process you're trying to take away from the citizens of Hawaii, whoever came up with this bill should be ashamed. Absolutely 100% ashamed. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Robert Henry, individual in opposition on Zoom.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. I caution you to look at the case law and to look at the laws that have already been examined regarding this matter. The issue of uncollected civil fines has been in front of the Center of Oahu. The Honolulu Department of Planning and Committee and Permitting estimates the city is owed more than $130 million in unpaid fines. We stand behind the testimony of the Grassroots Institute of Hawaii. In effect, SB 875 will allow counties to sell properties without going through the normal legal process. The non-judicial process is nothing but a slippery slope. Not to mention what has happened over at Maui Wastewater when they're bringing sentences. Just this month, they gave somebody a sentence of 10 years in prison for accepting bribes. We know we have a legal issue in this state. I do not want to give you more power. And I will tell you, we are organizing and we are prepared to go as far as we can, as far as in certiorari to the Supreme Court to protect our rights. You cannot unilaterally collect money by selling my property without giving me the ability to have judicial notice, to be convicted, and then to have a judicial officer provide a remedy. There's been many, many lawsuits, and you're aware that that was submitted by the Grassroots Institute. I just want to caution you again, you need to determine if you're willing to spend the millions of dollars that we're going to spend to fight you on this. As SD 875 is illegal, will not be tolerated, and absolutely, if you think you're going to play a game, be prepared of who you're ready to play against. This is Robert Henry. I'm a developer. We have property over there, and I'll tell you what, we're not going to let it slide, my friends. The case law and all of the issues in your state and in this county have shown themselves to be ripe with fraud. Do not attempt in any manner to manipulate these unsophisticated consumers by
My
taking their
apologies,
property
Mr.
under
Henry, your 2
judicial
minutes.
under judicial process without having the judicial court's
Can you
rule.
please
This is Robert Henry. We stand down and we hope you'll read the memorandum that was filed today.
Can you please summarize your
Under-
testimony? Your 2-minute time limit is up.
Thank you. Please take a look at the Grassroots Institute of Hawaii, our memorandum that was filed, and please also take a look at the statutory notices that we sent to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Lynn Fisher, individual in opposition on Zoom. Not present. Okay. Moving on, we have John Ann, individual in opposition on Zoom. Not present. Moving on, we have Rebecca Stores, individual in opposition on Zoom. Not present. Okay, moving on, we have Karen Omoni, individual in opposition on Zoom. Not present. Moving on, we have Bart Stores, individual in opposition on Zoom. Moving on, we have Richard Fernandez, individual in opposition on Zoom. Moving on, we have Jason Sherwood, individual in opposition on Zoom. Okay, moving on, we have Ralph Furley, individual in opposition on Zoom. Okay, moving on, we have Teresa Harden, individual in opposition. Oh, no, I'm sorry, in person.
Hello, thank you. Chair and council members, thank you very much for the opportunity to testify. My name is Teresa Harden. I'm a realtor, and I'm in oppose of this bill in its entirety. I see this as a complete government overreach. I recognize that there's one problem that you have, and you think that this might be a solution, but this is not. This is, there is a process for called eminent domain for you to be able to take back property that is condemned or that meets a certain criteria. So we already have a vehicle for this process. So I don't understand why we're here today trying to create a new process with a rubber stamp to expedite a non-judicial foreclosure. I do know in the past that there have been a number of situations with both banks and associations using the non-judicial foreclosure process, and there have been a lot of problems with that completely. This is not an effective solution to solve the problem. So I oppose completely. I find this to be very offensive that I have to stand here and tell you that this is against property owner rights, against our constitutional rights. These are things you already know. Excuse me. So I oppose this bill in its entirety. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Cecilia Gomez, individual in opposition on Zoom. Not present. Okay, are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, any questions?
Aloha, I would like to testify.
Lisa, hi.
This is Lisa. I'm having technical difficulties, but I am here.
Yes, Lisa, please go ahead.
Mahalo. Thank you for taking the time to listen today. This bill has got to be stopped immediately in its entirety. It is completely unconstitutional. It is against our very basic constitutional rights. The 14th Amendment of the Constitution says that no state shall deprive a person of a life, liberty, or property without the due process of law. Doing a non-judicial foreclosure is absolutely contrary to the Constitution of the United States of America. Therefore, this bill cannot move forward in any way, shape, or form. Secondarily, this takes away the rights of the Hawaiian Constitution, that we also have the right to have and own properties. I know that there is an agenda against short-term vacation rentals. However, if you pass this law against a segment of property owners, it will need to be passed against all property owners. Additionally, if you're going to do it just to business owners that own and run the state's greatest economy, which is tourism, if you're going to take it away from the owners of businesses that run hotels and properties for them, you also need to take it away from the restaurants when they have liens on their properties. You need to take it away from Zippy's. You need to take it away from Mahilo Hattie's. You need to take it away from every single business. This is not, it's not okay to single out one division of a segment of business that you're trying to eliminate. We have property rights, we have business rights, and you are violating all of them with this. And I'd also like to make one last note. If you'll notice, not one single person that has registered to testify at this point is in favor of this bill. Do not, as our representatives, miss that point. Every single one of us are in opposition of this unconstitutional bill. Mahalo for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Representative Onishi, please go ahead.
Yeah, ma'am, if you could please come up. I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Teresa Harden.
Teresa, you said you're a realtor.
Yes, I am.
So, are you familiar with the property tax foreclosure process?
I know a little bit with city and county property taxes.
Yeah.
2 years beyond payment is when they start the process,
Yeah.
yes.
And that's a
little bit aware.
non-judicial foreclosure, correct?
Well, that's happening in a period of time that's 2 years past a delinquency, not in the middle or day two. So there's a process that follows.
Yeah. Well, this bill outlines a process also.
I understand that, but your,
No, I mean, my point is,
that's for property
that
taxes.
is a non-judicial foreclosure.
This is
correct?
for civil fines, is that
Yeah.
right? So it's different. Property taxes is different than
Oh, yeah, definitely.
civil fines.
But it is a non-judicial foreclosure,
Okay,
right?
I'm not the attorney, so.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought as a realtor you would know that. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Okay. Members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, members, we have written testimony in opposition from the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, testimony in support from Honolulu City Council member Calvin Say, Written testimony with comments from the Department of Planning and Permitting. Comments from the Grassroots Institute of Hawaii, and a number of individuals in opposition. Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to SB 921, relating to limitations of actions. First to testify on this measure, we have, oh, no one. Is there anyone here to testify on this measure? SB 921. Okay, seeing none. Members, we have written testimony in support from Hawaii Council for Association of Apartment Owners and 3 individuals. Okay, moving on to SB 910 SD1. This is relating to intoxicating liquor. First to testify, no testifiers on this measure. We have 1 written testimony in support from the City and County of Honolulu Department of Transportation Services. Moving on to SB 410 SD1. This is relating to expungement. First to testify on this measure, we have Ernest De Lima and Tammy Kincaid from the Judiciary, State of Hawaii, with comments on Zoom.
Good afternoon, Chair Nakayama and Vice Chair Sayama. My name is Ernest De Lima. I'm with the Hawaii State Judiciary. At this time, we would rest on our written testimony, and we can be available to try and answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Lee Hayakawa, Office of Public Defenders, in support. Are they not here? Okay. We'll be moving on then to Kat Brady, a coordinator from the Community Alliance on Prisons, in support. Also not here. Okay, members, that is all the testifiers we have. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to SB 1327 SD1. This is relating to the use of electronic filings by the Public Utility Commission. First to testify on this measure, we have Leo Asuncion, Chair of the Hawaii Public Utilities Commission, in support.
Aloha, good afternoon, Chair Nakashima, Vice Chair Sayama, and members of the committee, the House Committee on Consumer Protection and Commerce. My name is Andrew Okabe. I'm here on behalf of Chair Leo Asuncion of the Hawaii Public Utilities Commission. I stand our written testimony in support of this measure. Please let me know. I'm available for any questions you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Dean Nishina, Executive Director of DCCA Division of Consumer Advocacy, in support.
Aloha and good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Dean Nishina with the Division of Consumer Advocacy in the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. We stand on our written testimony in support of this measure, and I'm available for questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, we have written testimony with comments.
I just like, this is Robert Henry. I'd like to make a comment that just to make a note. The people who just noted in the file, officially on the record, that they were for this are people that work for the state. The people that are the beneficiaries of this illegal law. Keep that in mind, my friends. Notice who just spoke.
I'm sorry.
The people that are in benefit. That's my statement. I had to add that on because I think that it's not right to throw somebody in as a citizen if they are members of the benefiting body.
Hello? For the record, can you please state your full name and the organization you're part of?
My name is Robert David Henry, and I'm a landowner and a land developer throughout the United States, including upon which
we're on the measure SB 1327 SD1. Is this the measure that you're testifying?
Well, I just heard. I heard that there was somebody discussing the exact same thing that I came here for, and then it was just nothing more than a kangaroo court with some people from the government who were opposed to it. So that's not the way we do business in Palo Alto, my friends. You guys need to really, really listen to this tape again. That's all. I'm going to stand down. I can't believe what I.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Okay, members, we have written testimony with comments from the Disabilities and Communication Access Board and written testimony in support from Hawaii Telecommunications. Members, any questions? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to SB 945 SD2. This is relating to the Special Purpose Digital Currency Licensure. First to testify on this measure, we have Iris Ikeda, Commissioner from DCCA, in support.
Aloha Chair Nakashima and members of the committee. My name is Iris Ikeda. I'm the Commissioner for the Division of Financial Institutions for the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. And as you know, this bill is establishing a program for the licensure, regulation, and oversight of digital currency companies. So as you know, the digital currency has grown in popularity and has had some epic failures recently. So what we want to do is really supervise these companies. And the three strongest aspects of this licensure law is to provide licensing requirements consistent with our other industries, provide a minimum regulatory policies like anti-money laundering, trying to identify illicit behavior, cybersecurity. These are all internet connected, and privacy to protect consumers. And thirdly, this would require companies to maintain a strong financial standing, including holding permissible investments, which are the investments that protect consumers. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Len Higashi, Executive Director of the Hawaii Technology Development Corporation, in support. Anyone from HTDC here? Okay, seeing none. Any other persons here to testify on this measure? Okay, seeing none. Members, we have written testimony with comments from the Grassroots Institute of Hawaii, written testimony in support from Crypto Kenny and an individual. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to SB 476 SD1. This is relating to Public Utilities Commission. First to testify on this measure, we have Dean Nishina, Executive Director of DCCA Division of Consumer Advocacy, with comments.
Aloha and good afternoon again, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Dean Nishina with the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. We stand on our written testimony offering comments on this SB 476, but I would like to emphasize we do appreciate how SD1 incorporated some of our earlier proposed recommendations in terms of not only looking at the net book value, whether its net book value is zero, but also whether it's still used and useful. So with that, thank you for the opportunity. Available for questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Leo Asuncion, Chair of the Hawaii Public Utilities Commission, with comments.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Daniel Park on behalf of the Hawaii Public Utilities Commission. I stand on the Commission's written testimony and am available for any questions.
Thank you. Next, we have Ted Bullen from the Climate Protectors Hawaii in opposition.
Thank you, Chair Nakashima, Vice Chair Sayama, members of the committee. Ted Boland on behalf of the Climate Protectors Hawaii. We are in strong opposition to this bill. I previously worked as a Assistant Attorney General in 2 states on consumer protection, on utility matters, and it's very unfair for a utility to be able to sell off an asset merely because the net book value has gotten to zero. The amendments made by the committee have improved it in saying that it also needs to be used and useful. But I think it's not really necessary to do this bill at all because it will not do the administrative savings that it talks about if you have to make a determination, as the PUC would have to do, as to whether something is used and useful. So I would submit that the bill is unnecessary and would still be in opposition, although it has improved. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. Available for questions.
Thank you. Next, we have James Abraham from Hawaiian Electric in support on Zoom.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. James Abraham on behalf of Hawaiian Electric, testifying in support of Senate Bill 476. However, we do have some concerns with the current language in the bill that it may have the unintended consequence of limiting the bill's intent. Hawaiian Electric has been coordinating with the PUC on their proposed language that was adopted in a prior committee, which appears to limit the bill to situations where the utility either donates these types of assets or disposes of them at a loss. And as provided in our written testimony, we request that the language "at a loss" be removed from the current bill so that it isn't overly limited and it remains a useful bill. We're currently working with the PUC to see if there's alternative language that would be appropriate to add, but for now, Hawaiian Electric respectfully asks that the committee remove the language "at a loss" from subsection A2 of the current bill. Thank you, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, we have one written testimony in support from the 4 Cents LLC. Members, are there any questions? Oh, please go ahead, Rep. Lowen.
Thank you. And Chair, respectfully, I think the testimony submitted in support was submitted on the wrong bill. It was about coffee labeling.
Oh, okay.
I have a question for Hawaiian Electric.
Hello.
Do you know the origin of this bill? I mean, the only entity supporting it is Hawaiian Electric. So did this bill come from, was it a proposal from Hawaiian Electric?
No, this was not an original proposal from Hawaiian Electric.
And you don't
But we
know?
No, we don't. We don't know who initiated the bill, but we do support the intent of the bill.
And what is it that you read as the intent of the bill?
It would appear to allow us to dispose of certain assets that are fully depreciated, have a net book value of 0. So, these are assets that have been used by the utility for a long time and now essentially are no longer on our books. So, these types of assets, so it can be, a very old vehicle or, an old asset we're retiring. Often we donate
But it allows
these.
you to dispose of them without going through any review or approval process by the PUC, more specifically.
Yes. So if we, have an old vehicle that we want to donate to, a local nonprofit, right? Currently, we have to go through the entire PUC administrative process to get approval just to donate an old vehicle, that we no longer have use for.
And has this been like a problem in the past where you've been unable to do this or it's taken too long? Is there evidence of this being a problem that's created big issues for the company?
I wouldn't say it's a problem that creates big issues, but this would, aid efficiency. It would allow us to do these types of transactions and donations, without the need to go through the entire proceeding and spend resources and time when these types of transactions are pretty much uncontested.
Okay. Can I ask one more question? Of Consumer Advocate, I guess from your perspective and based on your testimony about the possibility for it to negatively impact ratepayers, what would your scenario be? I mean, the example just given to us by Hawaiian Electric is donating an old car, but what would a different kind of scenario be where it would be sort of like a worst case scenario where there was no review by the commission?
Right, and so actually on that particular scenario, it may not be a worst case scenario, but if, I think I put in my testimony, one example is the depreciable rate for a vehicle is 5 years, but most vehicles last more than 5 years, right? So if the utility is able to give away a car that has net book value of 0 after 5 years, but there's still 3-5 years left of value to that car, that's where consumers could be adversely harmed, because if the utility goes out, gives the truck away, buys a new truck, and then customers have to pay for that new truck as well, customers are being asked to pay for more money. And then certainly as it's a larger asset, same thing. They have long lives. That's one of the issues we deal with in depreciation studies, because the utility would prefer to recover their money as quickly as possible in these things. So we're trying to figure out that right balance of a useful life. So that's why we had proposed looking at whether or not it's still used and useful. So just saying they want to give away because it's net book value potentially will cost consumers more money in the long run. And to maybe address a little bit of your question, the commission has established more of an expedited process when specifically Hawaiian Electric Company is trying to give away or donate things, where if it's a notification, they're supposed to identify what they're proposing to give away, confirm that net book value 0, that it's no longer used and useful, so that at that point, if there's no questions, it can just move ahead, as opposed to going through a full-blown proceeding.
So that sort of expedited process already
in place,
exists.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm trying to figure out, we can't quite figure out where this bill came from. It's a big mystery.
It didn't come from us.
But I'm also trying to figure out if there's really much of a problem that needs to be addressed that has a real world impact. But it sounds like you process most of these requests fairly expeditiously.
Again, for those items, there is an expedited process for Hawaiian Electric. For the other companies, there isn't. but that's not usually an application we see often before the commission.
Right, and there's no
what-
testimony from any company except Hawaiian Electric on this bill, so, okay. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, members, any further questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll take a short recess for decision-making. Recess.
Sorry. Reconvening the Committee on Consumer Protection and Commerce, conference room 329, decision making. Senate Bill 1468, Senate Draft 2, relating to right of entry for professional surveyors. Chair's recommendation is to be pass the bill out with proposed amendments from the realtors, excluding building structures, residents, or vehicles for the entry, and replacing the blank on line 18 with 10 days. Then we had a bunch of amendments from a bunch of surveyors who proposed that the blank on page 3, line 9 be made 72 hours, that lines 12 to 21 on that same page were redundant and should be deleted. Page 4, line 14 to 1 to 14 set out 2 written notices, and we'll combine those paragraphs into a single paragraph so that there's one paragraph on providing notices. Page 14, line 15, page 4, line 15, land surveyors or land surveyors assistants shall carry out duties. Page 5, delete lines 19, delete page 5, line 19, and page 7, line 4, and defect date to June 30, 3000. Members' questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair as amended.
Voting on SB 1468 SD2, Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Vice Chair, Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Amato.
Aye.
Representative Bellotti, excused. Representative Hashem.
Aye.
Representative Hussey Burdick, excused. Representative Gates.
Aye.
Representative Lowen.
Aye.
Representative Onishi.
Aye.
Representative Tam, excused. Representative Purick.
No.
No vote. Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you very much, members. Senate Bill 875, Senate Draft 1 will be deferred. Senate Bill 921, Chair's recommendation is to pass this out as is. Members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair, unamended.
Voting on SB 921, Chair's recommendation is to pass as is, noting the excused absences of Representatives Bellotti, Hussey Burdick, and Tam. Any members voting with reservations? Any members voting no? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. Senate Bill 910, Senate Draft 1, relating to intoxicating liquor. Chair's recommendation is that we defer this. Senate Bill 410, SD1, relating to expungement. Recommendation of the Chair is to include Judiciary's proposed amendments regarding the transmittal of expungement and effective dated July 1st, 2025. Members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair as amended.
Voting on SB 410 SD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting the excused absences of Representatives Bellotti, Hussey Burdick, and Tam. Any members voting no? Any members voting with reservations? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you very much. Senate Bill 1327, Senate Draft 1, related to the use of electronic filing by the Public Utilities Commission. Chair's recommendation is that we adopt technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style, and change the effective date to June 30, 3000. Members, questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair as amended.
Voting on SB 1327 SD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting the excused absences of Representatives Bellotti, Hussey Burdick, and Tam. Any members voting no? Any members voting with reservations? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Senate Bill 945, Senate Draft 2, relating to special purpose digital currency licensure. Chair's recommendation is that we replace this with House Bill 1261, which was previously considered by the committee. Members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair as amended.
Voting on SB 945 SD2, Chair's recommendation is to pass those amendments. Noting the excused absences are Representatives Bellotti, Hussey Burdick, and Tam. Any members voting no? Any members voting with reservations? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. Senate Bill 476, Senate Draft 1, related to the Public Utilities Commission. Chair's recommendation is we defer. Having reached the end of the agenda, we are adjourned.